Here in the Bull City and beyond, women are chasing their dreams, defying expectations, and redefining success. Get ready to witness the laughs, tears, struggles, and triumphs because we're sharing it all. I'm your host, Anjali D. Boyd, and this is Figuring It Out.
You all
Sounds
good?
Good. I am good.
Alrighty.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So today you are considered by many as a rising star in Hollywood and as a product of Burton Magnet, Shepherd IB Middle, and Hillside High School. And you've often credited Durham Public Schools for planting that seed of acting and theater in you.
Absolutely.
So how did your time in DPS kind of influence your desires to want to be an actress?
In a major way. DPS, Durham Public Schools, I didn't realize how special it was actually until I left North Carolina, went to Howard, and, compared my educational background with other people. And they're like, wait, y'all did what? Y'all were learning languages that, other second languages in kindergarten, stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, we were approaching education from a global point of view. Yeah. Speaking of Bert and Geo World. Yeah. But the inception and the root of me coming into acting and coming into exploring storytelling on stage started at Shepherd in terms of my conscious mind being able to be aware that that's what I was doing. So I was at Shepherd in the James E. Shepherd Auditorium, and we were with Mr. Warmack was his name.
Yeah, I remember.
You remember Mr. Warmack? Did you have Mr. Warmack as well?
Did,
my God. So then you know something about potential because that was his favorite word. Yes. Yeah. And he spoke about potential all the time and all the potential that was in us.
Yeah.
So we would improv on that stage. We would explore characters via our imagination. Before we picked up a script, before we picked up anybody else's words, we explored what was on our hearts, our minds, and how that would funnel into the improvisation or the prompt that we would get from him. And it was so fun, it was so freeing. And so then I stopped actually with Mr. In middle school I stopped with Mr. Warmack because once you got to 7th grade you could play sports.
Oh yes, for sure.
So I ran cross country, I played basketball, I ran track.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't a lot of time to do that and do theater. And also like all of my friends are in sports.
Yes, for sure. I know.
And don't get me wrong, my dear friends to this day were in drama club as well. But it was so like sports was a whole nother world and boys,
like if you were an athlete, right? What were you doing?
Yeah. So, that was a thing. And I remember the day that I told Mr. Warmack, oh, I'm not going to participate in the play this year. Like I'll still come and spar, in the auditorium and whatever. He was like, Lauren, you are throwing away your gift. And I remember that day I felt so guilty, but I also didn't know what a gift was.
Yeah, I get you.
And so, like I said, Durham Public Schools was critical in that because that was the seed that was planted. And then once I got to Hillside, I had an aha moment on the stage in Mr. Tabb's class where I just was doing an improv in Mr. Tabb's class on the first day of class. And the class went from a class full of strangers to everybody was on the same accord after having gone through experiencing what that improv was. And we were like instant community because of this medium of storytelling. And I finished and I was like, oh, okay, that's what a gift is. You know what I mean? It's the ability to create community via stories. And then from there, it was like, continue to like thrive in terms of doing the productions and directing and assistant directing and writing and everything. So DPS and all of my teachers, even my teachers, my English teachers, they were like, I would do presentations in class and sometimes I act out my presentation. And then, I would be, and my teacher was like, you got an A. But also, Lauren, I think you are very talented in this thing. And I really want you to keep doing that. And that was like my English teacher in high school too. So, it's just like a community of people, and my administrators, they will always come to the shows and really encourage that. So yeah, DPS is huge in that realization.
I agree.
For me.
Something about those DPS educators, man.
They're the bomb.com.
They are. I agree. Okay, but while in high school, you also did a ton of other things, right?
Yeah.
You ran track. You were captain of the basketball team. You served as senior class president. So how did your experience as an athlete and a leader so early on in your career influence and shape who you are today?
Big time.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. The leadership aspect of sports helps you appreciate. I mean, it positioned me to be able to do what I'm doing right now. For example, the last 2 shows that I've done, or the 2 shows that I've done. Just still getting started.
Yeah,
but,
that's kind of crazy,
right? But I was a series regular on City on the Hill, and I was the lead on this show as well, the female lead on this show. Yeah. And that's a great deal of responsibility that comes with collaborating with the other department heads around your character, with the hair department, with the makeup, with wardrobe, everybody, and appreciating how the team aspect of creating a character comes to play, appreciating the team aspect of executing a scene, getting through an episode comes into play. And then also just the athlete in me, whether I was a leader or not, like just the experience of the job's not done until it's done. You don't win a track meet, like you don't win a race in a track meet on race day. Yeah. You win it in the last 3 weeks that you practice 100%. To get that time down in order to have the best time on race day. So like that amount of preparation, that amount of focus and dedication was really critical. And then also there are long days on film sets.
I can imagine.
And and they can get really frustrating and they can get really trying. And the ability to be the number 2 on the show or one of the leads on the show. And so when the recurring guest stars and co-stars come in and they're like, this is an awful day. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's freezing or it's burning hot and everything seems to be going bad, but they look to you and they're like, well, she ain't complaining. So, we're going to get it done kind of thing. Point. So it's critical to understand your position and play that part for sure.
Which is way more than just acting.
This is stuff that nobody sees happen on screen. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
So one of the things that I'm kind of noticed is that you seem to be very clear on the things that you want. And that seemed to be started very early. I mean, when it came time to apply to colleges, rumor has it, you only applied to one school.
First of all, who you been talking to?
And your dad made you apply to some other schools. You were so determined you're going to Howard that was it. Yes. That was your one application. You were done applying.
That is very true.
Okay.
That's very true. And, that speaks to the audacity of that. Like I said, when that aha moment happened on Mr. Tab stage, I was like, this is it.
That's it. This
is what I'm going to do. And I don't care what anybody says. But I heard the voice of God talking to me. And this is what I'm going to do. But it really was my dad used to say all the time, like, he was like, Lauren, you don't understand how lucky you are to know what you want to do so early. And I was like, but I get it now. I really do get it now, because as much as I think people in the industry are like, who's this girl? Where'd she come from? So quickly, it's still, my teen years just started earlier. Because I think it really does take a considerable amount, like a strong, sometimes decade to stew in your craft, to dedicate, 100%. To research, to learn, to fail better. Yeah. And so, I took that on. And so when I researched schools that I could go to, first Yale School of Drama came up first.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, full circle.
Yeah, I know. And so I was like, all right, great. I'm going to graduate high school and I'm going straight to Yale. And I did more research. I was like, oh, Oh, it's a grad program. Okay,
Yeah.
I got to go to undergrad first. And then
Gotcha.
Howard came into play. And then I researched the alumni. And I said, oh, Felicia Rashad. Oh, Taraji B. Henson. And, you know, Ozzie Davis, Ruby D. Like,
Lauren E. Banks.
stop it. But yes, which is wild,
Yeah.
right? In that list, in that legacy. And Chadwick Boseman, of course. But it was at that time, once I saw those names, I said, okay, they seem to have turned out some fantastic storytellers.
Yeah.
And I felt very confident that that's where I wanted to go. Not to mention that I'm from Durham.
Yeah, right.
And North Carolina Central you know what I mean? Like runs Fayetteville Street. And I went to school from Toddler's Academy to Burton to Shepherd to
Literally,
Hillside,
down the street.
all along Fayetteville Street. Okay, so it was like, all right, if I'm not gonna go to Central, I'm gonna go to the closest thing to it,
yeah.
in terms of, you know, what I want to do, and so yeah, Howard came to be, and my dad said apply to some other schools, please, but I got in.
But I mean, it
out.
worked. I mean,
It all worked
you're
out.
right.
Yeah, it was a crazy choice because not to mention you have to audition to get into Howard.
Yeah.
You can get into the school, but into the program
And
you have to.
does that happen like when when does that process happen?
You have to get into the school first.
Okay,
and then in the spring of the year of basically spring of your graduation from high school.
Got it.
So the spring prior
Before
to
you
you have to
Nice.
no, you know, they want to know.
They like you come
to this campus, you need to know if you're going to be in this program or not.
Gotcha.
And so you audition, and I auditioned with 2 pieces, and my family went up with me that weekend, and it worked out. Yeah, I was one of the 16 students that were admitted that year.
Amazing. And so what was your time like at Howard? Like
Everything.
Yeah, like well, I mean, my sister went to Howard, so
Okay.
she tells it, but tell the people, like what was that experience like? You know, how did that prepare you for like where you are now?
Howard is a special place. And if anybody who knows a Howard alum, you're like, yeah, you know, everybody's like, we get it. It's the best place ever. But it really, you know, it felt like that. Like it's in Washington, D.C., first of all. So the backdrop of Washington, D.C. is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many things happening. At that time, Barack Obama was in the White House when I was a student. You know what I mean? You know, like, how could you not feel like, woo, we are doing it? You know, we were there. It was a place and a haven for Black Americans, but not just Black Americans, the diaspora, because Howard is an international school. And so it illuminated how diverse Blackness is for me.
Yeah.
And then another level of pride comes with that. Even just how diverse the African American experience is. Like the first week of school, you have like a rep your city day,
nice.
right? And like and they play different music from different regions of the country, and you're like, wow, California kids are really different. You know what I mean? Like, these New York kids with these skinny jeans, it's just, that is interesting, you know, how they move. And then you look at it again and you're like, but also we're all moving like African, you know, like it's very African. Like I've seen these moves before, and it's just it's so interesting and beautiful and complex. And then the program was amazing. And the theater program at Howard, you have to appreciate that they were training Black artists. It started in 1919.
Wow.
And of course, Howard was founded in 1867. But the drama program started by Owen Dotson was in 1919, thanks to the Howard Players, which was a student-run company. And they were training artists to compete in a professional environment because there was no Yale School of Drama accepting Black actors. Yeah. So that philosophy of training the artists at the undergraduate level to a master's level of training continued. So after those first couple weeks of school, like, oh, I love Howard and everything, it was like, Mom, Dad, I ain't slept. I need some food. Like, because like we were just in it, and all of our professors demanded everything from us, and they were strict, and it wasn't done until it was done. And I remember my parents sending me a sleeping bag because they were like, if you call us one more time and say you spent the night in the theater because you were working on this project, they got me a sleeping bag for Christmas that year. That's what it was.
That's amazing.
And, but it was awesome. And I never, as hard as my professors were on us, I never doubted how much they loved us and how much they believed in us. And that was everything towards the work that we're doing today. Yeah.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So after you graduate from Howard, you spent some time doing regional theater in DC, Baltimore area. What was that time like for you? How transformative? Like,
it was everything.
What was it?
So, when I was in DC, Baltimore, Virginia, like that was about a year worth of regional theater is what I was doing. And so I became a professional actor on those stages. I became a part of the National Theater Union, which is Equity, Actors Equity Association. And I got my equity card, is what they call it, your union card. I got my equity card on the Baltimore Center Stage theaters production that they were doing. And then I worked at Studio Theater, and then I did some readings at Woolly Mammoth Theater. So just all of these really beautiful, rich theaters that were in DC that I was able to cultivate relationships with even as a student at Howard, that I saw really amazing work as a student at Howard. And then they embraced me immediately. And for me, it was important to do that at that level at that time in that space, because leading up to that, I would ride the mega bus up to New York, and I would hustle auditions, and I would spend spring break to get a sense of what New York would be and, to prepare for the transition out of school.
Yeah.
And after about, a week's worth of auditions and being in line for 3 to 4 hours just to get to the sign-in sheet that may be closed by the time you get there, I was like, oh, wait. This New York is extremely dense and it just didn't seem like the most economical way towards what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And yet DC had these rich theaters, and I said, okay, let's rework this plan.
Okay.
Let's use this market that has really great theater that's not as dense, but I can become equity sooner, seems here than there, and then figure out the next step from there, which it ultimately ended up being grad school. But I loved every bit of being a theater practitioner in DC.
That's amazing. And kind of what you hinted at, like within a year-ish of graduating from Howard, you ended up applying and got accepted to Yale. Kind of full circle from high school when you found out Yale's drama school.
Yale was on the list, then it was knocked off the list because I was like, I'm not even gonna finish Howard. I'm gonna go straight to LA. And then I met a man named Al Freeman Jr. and I was like, oh, there's more to this acting thing, And then there was definitely more.
Yeah, I mean, and Yale School of Drama is is the top drama school in the world currently. So what made you want to pursue a master's? Because not everybody does that. Not everybody goes and get a bachelor. Some people just try to go straight for it, right? Sure. But you seem to really value the training.
Oh yeah.
Behind that got you to where you are today. So like, what was that motivation? Like, why did you decide that a master's was going to be next?
Well, it was a part of a process. Like I said, I think Yale drama was in the back of my mind as a kid. By the time I got to Howard, I had all of this experience on the Hillside stage that once I got to Howard, I was like, oh, maybe I'll do a few years here and then go ahead to LA. But again, I think at the undergraduate level, I think at every level, the institution has a responsibility to making sure everybody's on the same page, right? And so that first year was about taking people from all different kinds of preparation, right? From their high school experience and background, and some people that had just decided that year that they wanted to act, right? And didn't have a hillside drama experience or international, theater exchange program in their previous experiences, right? So then I found myself a little impatient.
Got it.
With the rate at which we were moving and the rate in which I felt like I was learning new things. And you couldn't perform your first year, I think it was.
Oh, I got you.
Though I actually did perform my first year. It was a total, and we'll talk about it. Okay. We'll come back around to that. But I say all of that to say, what I did in that first year was I went down to the film and TV department, and Howard also had a master's program. So I went to those schools and I sat under Holly Garima, who is a really famous filmmaker and who taught in the film school. And I would go ask to sit in on some of the African-American cinema classes and just sit with the grad students or ask, hey guys, can I barter? I have access to a costume department in the theater program. Can I be on your set if I supply you with costumes? Those things are happening. And so I did that in that time where, where I felt like I needed more in my education and boosting what I was experiencing. But then by my junior year, we connected with our teacher in scene study. His name was Al Freeman Jr. And that's when scene study got really deep. That's when the craft started to open up for me in a way that he had a big emphasis on process. And for an actor, process is everything. Yeah. Everything. Because it allows you to move through different mediums seamlessly. And it also allows you to approach different levels of expectation or different levels of levels of challenge as it relates to the work, and make those adjustments, like simple adjustments.
Gotcha.
And so when I gained that kind of knowledge and my instrument was introduced to that, I said, oh, there's more for me to do here. There's more for me to steep myself into. There's more for me to unlock. And so then I said, maybe I should reconsider this grad school thing.
Gotcha.
Because ultimately that's the other thing, to Howard's credit and other schools' credit, they're still, like Howard was still a liberal arts school. There were still other requirements asked of us, which were fantastic, by the way. The fact that we had philosophy classes, the fact that we had all of these other literature classes, and they all informed us as artists. And what I was craving next was an opportunity to just focus on craft and process and how to add more tools to this rich understanding of the world that Howard, Hillside, Burton had given me. Shepherd, it had given me.
I get you.
Yeah. And that's where drama school came into play. Also, by the way, I auditioned for Yale School of Drama twice.
Really?
Twice.
Wow.
And I think that's really, really, really
that is
important for people to know. Because I auditioned for Yale School of Drama. Again, as you said, clear, right? So I knew I wanted, once I was like, I'm going to go to grad school tomorrow. You know what I mean? So I was still in undergrad when I auditioned for grad school.
So you're planning on going straight in.
And I auditioned and I got, the callback and the end of day callback and all the things. So my talent got me all the way, right? And then we had the interview portion and they were like, okay, when you come to Yale School of Drama, what do you expect to find for yourself? And I remember looking at Ron Van Loo and just thinking to myself really quickly, because I was fast on my feet. But in my head, I was like, fine for myself. It's Yale School of Drama. And you're going to tell me what I should do and be? And that's not their philosophy at all. And as, that was my naivete at that time. and there are other schools that would love to tell you exactly who
you'd be.
Yeah. But they're interested in inviting students and people, more mature adults that knew who they were as artists.
Yeah.
And then they would just add more tools, more dialectical tools, like how to transform a dialect, or physical tools of how to break down character in a more physical way or something like that. They're not trying to teach you how to act.
Yeah.
And they want you to know what you're coming to find, so that it's more of an artist in residency experience versus a student who's just learning from, being fed knowledge. And so I was like, okay. And then I went out fast, as we know, left that environment, graduated, having the confidence to know that I had made it all the way to the end. And the only thing that was really standing in my way was experience. And so I left there, did the regional theater year that I did. They had told me to come back in about 3 years, but of course I came back a year later because I was like, I understand what you mean, but I got stuff to do. but at the same time, I had done, I think, a lot in a very short period of time. And that's the first thing they said to me. They were like, you were just here. You did a lot. I said, yeah, I'm ready to do this. Y'all ready to do this? And then, then I got it.
So did you learn something about yourself during that 1 year of regional theater that helped?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what was that thing that you that transformed that interview?
That's
the
great.
Next time you went around?
That's a fantastic question. So much, because I guess I'd done maybe 4 productions by the time I got back. So and these are professional productions. And I'd understudied, and so I got to watch professionals do things. I got to learn from their mistakes. Then I also got to do my first show, like I said, at Baltimore Center Stage, and just even the emotional demand of that particular show was mind blowing. Like that character had gone through some particular kinds of traumas because she was a Somali refugee. Oh, wow. So I learned like that I wanted to be able to make sure I could take better care of my instrument when transforming into characters, right? Because I experienced some of her nightmares in my own nightmares, right? I also did a one-woman show of Harriet Tubman. And during the run of that show, I lost my voice. Or I think it was the rehearsal, I lost my voice. So by the time I went back, I knew that I wanted to learn how to better care for my instrument in terms of my voice. And they have, one of our biggest classes is voice and speech and just how to use your instrument. So by the time I got back and auditioned again and got to the interview and, all the callback and this and that in the interview, and they're like, you've been up to a lot. And he asked me the same question.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah.
And I was like, I knew you were going to ask me that. and I told him, and I was very clear. And I also knew that I wanted to have more production experiences.
Got it.
So that I could have the opportunity to apply the mistakes or apply the things that I was learning that I was kind of moving with my instincts on the outside in the regional theater world, that I could then, apply those processes and do it more efficiently and in a way that I could live a life as a human being and be an artist at the same time, right? Because it's really important that burnout is possible if you're not 100%. Taking care of your body and your instrument and doing things in the most economical way, but also the most truthful way too.
Yeah, 100%. From what I hear, Yale's School of Drama was the bomb, but not the easiest.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
So what was that? 3 years?
3.
Yeah, what was that like? What was that? Yeah.
See, the first year I felt like I was like every week I was like, oh my, like I really felt I felt a certain sense of just I was tingling almost literally every week just because I was so happy and I think thrilled and excited by how much I was learning, and it was something I dreamt about, at that point, almost 10 years, right? And so I was very, I think, elated to be in that space and to be creating and to be rubbing up against other iron and feeling like I was genuinely being sharpened every week at the end of every week.
Yeah.
It was awesome to know that all the teachers were there, not because they needed to be, because they genuinely wanted to see other artists get better. By the second year, which is the hardest year of any theater training, master's training program.
Gotcha.
I just felt like I had been hit by a Mack truck every day. Like, my body was just putting one foot in front of the next. And, and they talk about it all the time. They're like, we are giving you more work than you're capable of accomplishing on purpose, so that you can figure out how to manage, so you can figure out how to maneuver, figure out how to take care of yourself in the midst of it all. Like, so that when you go on the outside, there is no amount of demand or physical that you can't handle, that you can't calibrate, that you can't say, this is enough on my plate. I can handle more, whatever that is. And then by the third year, I just had a great sense of, confidence about already, who I was, but my identity as an artist and my abilities and command of my abilities, my conscious. It was like you start off with unconscious competence. You also have this unconscious incompetent, you're unconscious of what you're incompetent at.
For sure.
And then you move on to conscious incompetence. And then by the time you graduate, it's like a conscious competence. And that is everything. And then you go fly.
100%.
Yeah.
So before we go any further, let's circle back and let me get you state your name and occupation.
Okay.
Just so we have it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you can look at me or at the camera.
Okay. My name is Lauren E. Banks, and I am an actor, writer, producer, and filmmaker.
Awesome. And we're going to go a little bit back into early growing up. So while you didn't always know you wanted to be an actress, from a very early age, you were exposed to the arts through both your parents. Your dad was a musician growing up and your mom a writer. So what was that like?
Let me tell you about this research that you did.
What was that like in shaping?
I just didn't know who your sources are.
Durham. No. But what did that, how did that shape you early on? Like even that time when you didn't know that, being an actress was going to be where you ended up. What was that? How instrumental was that?
It was extremely instrumental. I think both of my parents, ultimately, when you talk about someone who loves music and someone who loves writing, those are people who love storytelling.
Yes.
Right? Like there are stories in music, there's obviously stories in the writing, and they also both are deeply celebratory of art and Black culture. And then you find that, in my experience as a child, means that we were at every Ben Bay festival here in Durham, right? We were at Juneteenth celebrations. We would go to exhibits. We would go to museums, like, anywhere that there was art and culture, and which is the same thing, but, anywhere that you would find or your curious mind could take you, we were there. Yeah. And I think it kind of just natural. I told him, I was like, this is all y'all's fault. In case you're wondering.
This is why I'm here.
Yeah. This is y'all's fault. Like, and then on top of that, like, I think that those are the things that they loved, but their occupations were different than those things. Yeah. Excuse me, but they were also entrepreneurs. And especially for myself as a filmmaker, this is that, and as an actor, like it is an entrepreneur's business. Like you don't just say, and I'm ready to act, and just sit back and wait, for people to come. Like, no. You have to, I was at drama school, even before, actually, like I said, when I was 14, and I researched that, you know, acting is what I wanted to do. I was like, they were like, you need a comp card. I said, what's a comp card? And you're like, you need a headshot. I was like, all right, well, my dad got business cards. All right, I'm gonna make me a business card. I'm gonna put my picture on it. I'm gonna print out my headshot at my dad's office. Like, everything happened there. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm gonna write a letter to the people that I find in Ebony magazine and the agents that I find in Essence. And I have some of those letters still today. But they were incredibly inspiring. First of all, some people wrote back. A woman named Patty Webster, who was a big agent at the time. I think she was like representing Usher and maybe some other people. Gotcha. But I found her in Ebony magazine. So then I used the computer to find how to get in touch with her. And I wrote her and I was like, my name is Lauren. I recently discovered this is what I want to do. Here's what I've done so far. I have a great belief in myself and and I know I'm gonna do this one day and would love for you to represent me.
Listen,
love for you to represent me. I'm in Durham, North Carolina. Here's my phone number. Here's my dad's phone number and my mom's. And but I say that to say the fact that my parents, I watched them build their businesses.
Yeah.
Also, that rich cultural experience plus witnessing the pragmatic steps that they've made towards that kind of merged together to help me be and do. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Mm-hmm. So we're fast forwarding in 2017, you graduate from Yale. And then you book your first role as Siobhan Keys in Showtime's drama series City on the Hill. What was that process like for you, from auditioning for the role to your first day on set? I mean, you're straight out of Yale a couple months, right?
Yeah.
So like, what was going through your mind during that time?
Girl. It's so funny because it really does feel like yesterday. In some ways it is. But I do remember that audition. I remember I was in LA because I was visiting. And I was taking meetings just in preparation for pilot season. Yeah. Because I signed with the agency after drama school, and I was, again, in similar regards to grad school, like getting good looks.
Yeah.
And for my work, for my acting ability. But there was this other component of, what have you done before? That factors into how someone gets the job or how a studio can be confident in hiring you. And also, who are you? Is the question too. It's like, where did you come from? Kind of thing. So I knew that was really critical to my ability to progress. So that's why I was in LA taking meetings, just to have general meetings so they could know who I was. Gotcha. And then when they saw the work, things could connect better. And then, City on the Hill audition came from one of those general meetings.
Gotcha.
And I remember having very little time to prepare for it, but I did. And I gave it my very best. And I remember an actor I think it was Lupita, she was saying how she auditioned for 12 Years a Slave and how she just wanted to not focus on getting a job, just do the very best she could for that character. Like, just focus on telling the truth ultimately. Yeah. And that's how it resonated with me. And so, that's what I focused on for that audition. When I got back to New York, maybe 48 hours later, and got the call that audition went well.
Nice.
And so well that they, wanted to invite me back for a callback. However, I was already gone, so they were just going to use the tape.
Got it. Okay.
And my agent was like, all right, is the tape good? Like, do you feel good about that? Them using this? I was like, yeah, I really felt strongly about it. So yeah, let's go for it. So that happened. And then the next day I got cast. So this all happened within like maybe four days.
Yeah.
And then I was on a plane to Boston.
Like how?
Within 5 days. Yeah. Yes.
They were like,
it was fast.
Hurry it up.
Yeah, no. So there wasn't much time to think about it. To answer your question.
Wasn't enough time to say what your feelings about that. No, okay.
It was time to, trust God. And it was interesting because it was a moment where I was, just before that audition, I had just like, I was kind of frustrated, crazy enough. Yes, I was, just graduated. But, like I said, I was getting close on a lot of things and people, and then it'd be one thing or another. And I was like, well, look, you did your part, surrender. I just heard like surrender to the process, to what this is and trust. And so that I was in a place of surrender when this even happened. So I was just like, okay, let me, when you do that, you can ride. Yeah, you can kind of ride the wind and do your part and then ride the rest of the experience. And so I was like, all right, so we're going to Boston, hopped on a plane, first time in Boston. And that day, that was my first time flying first class. It was funny. I was like, this is interesting. I was like, Mom, Dad, this is just crazy. But, I had a teacher who told me before I graduated Yale Drama, my stage combat teacher, he was very much like a coach, but Rick Sordelay, and he was just like, Lauren, I think really good things are going to come your way quickly. And he was just like, just know when you're in those big rooms, or if you're at the head of a board, a boardroom table or whatever it is, he was just like, just remind yourself you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And so I walked into that big board conference room for the first City on the Hill table read, and there's Kevin Bacon and Aldous Hodge and all these people and Showtime's entire executive board, and I was just like, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And then I said, hi, my name is Lauren, nice to meet you. And so that's what I was thinking. That's where I was,
That's amazing.
Yeah, just trusting it. Trusting it as much as I could trust that voice telling me this is a gift. I was like, all right, here we are. Let's go.
So you've described your character Siobhan from City on the Hill as someone who's blazing a trail that she doesn't have a blueprint for, which sounds very similar to your journey to become an actress.
Interesting.
So looking back, what kind of, I guess, like inner strengths or values or like, what do you think was most critical in enabling you to kind of blaze your own trail? I mean, they told you to come back to Yale in 3 years. You came back in 1. Your teacher even told you.
Just don't listen.
Literally.
Hard-headed.
So yeah, what is that about what is it about you that you think you allow yourself to kind of make those decisions and not listen to whatever?
I think it's 2 things. I think I have, speaking of parents, right? I have a mom, and my dad teases my mom about this a lot, but she really made me believe I could do anything I wanted to do. Yeah. She I was like, Mom, I want to run track. She was like, all right, great. I said, I want to go to the Olympics. We going to the Olympics. I love basketball. I think I want to play in WNBA. We going to play in the WNBA. I think I was painting and I want to be an artist. And, so I really, and she would go to great lengths to frame my paintings in the house as if I would, as if it was a gallery opening in the in the living room. But it was, that amount of confidence and belief, was critical. And then I also had a parent who was my father, who never let me do anything without a plan. Without some kind of idea about it. And to create a plan, you do have to do some research. Considerable amount of research. And you also have to see it. You have to see the thing that you're, that thing that you're doing. And I used to call it dreaming with my eyes wide open, right? So that I could see where I'm going. And it's not an idle dream. Like it's a dream that I'm aware of as it's happening. And so I think those 2 people being my parents were essential. And then I think that middle piece and component for me specifically is a spiritual one. And so it's not so much that I'm following even my own ideas and my own ambitions. when I go back and say, oh, I'm ready to go back and audition now, I do a great deal of listening and following to that spiritual voice that I can hear.
Yeah.
That I intentionally make room for. Whether it's me going out into nature and being quiet, whether it's meditating, prayer, like whatever it is, I make room for it. And that divine knowing is what I follow as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you get there? Because a lot of people have a hard time. You seem to trust yourself, trust the voice that you hear. Where did that come from? Because I hear that a lot from people. It's like they don't fully trust themselves to do the things that they're hearing, they're being told, that the vision that they see.
Yeah.
Like where, yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think I just know I've had a relationship with it as long as I've known, you know?
Yeah.
And my middle name is Elizabeth. Lauren E. Banks is important to me because Elizabeth is my great-grandmother's name.
Gotcha.
And she is the woman who taught me how to pray. And she is the person who opened up this understanding and connection to my ancestors and, you know, that part of me that is eternal, that part of me that existed before my conscious brain knew. You know what I mean? So, you know, I think, and that was at a very early age, and I spent a lot of time with her as a kid, you know, a child. So I think there's, you know, something in there.
Yeah.
And, but other than that, you know, I think that, like I said, she was 80 something, and, you know, she would struggle to get down on her knees and get on the side of the bed and pray. But that discipline, and I think was critical to witness as a kid, and also the humility that comes with that, you know, with that gesture.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, I think it's just been ingrained in me, and it's hard to pinpoint exactly where, but just being open to that divine space is everything. And I call on it a lot in my work.
That's amazing. That's beautiful. Okay. So beyond acting, you have your hand in a lot of other pots. You're writing pilots for new shows, producing short films. You even have your own production company, Visionary Village. Why did you start a production company? What do you hope to accomplish through that work?
Well, I started a production company because it was critical, I think, to being a storyteller. I think that for us all who are in media and the arts, I think having our own institutions is important.
Yeah.
And it's a part, and the production company is like the first level of something I've seen for a long time, in terms of the first phase of something I look forward to growing, which is ultimately a studio.
Nice.
And the production company right now is going to be my vehicle for collaborating with platforms like a Paramount Plus, like a Showtime.
Gotcha.
And other studios, other production companies, to tell the stories that I believe in, the stories that move me, the stories that I'm curious about. And not just that I write or that I direct or even need to act in, but having the ability to create with the other storytellers that I know, admire, and adore, who are my classmates from Hillside, who are my classmates from Howard and Yale, right? Yeah. And so that's my pillar to be able to pull other people in along on this journey. But the production company, the mission of it, ultimately, Visionary Village, is an opportunity to cultivate, like I said, a village of visionaries, and to create work that challenges, informs, and delights the senses. That is our mission, and that is what I think can be very powerful about the medium of storytelling.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to your studio and everything else that's going to come out.
Coming soon.
So we've talked a lot about your successes, all the things you've accomplished, but I also think it's super important to highlight the failures. So what have been some of your biggest or most significant failures, and what did you learn from those along the way?
Well, we talked about one for sure, which, is hard to call it a failure. But it felt like a failure when I was in, my senior year, and I didn't get in. But it was so critical because it helped me understand, again, that people say it all the time, to trust the process.
Yeah.
There was no part of my journey that was supposed to start with me going straight from undergrad to grad school. No part. And I wouldn't have known that if not for that moment of failure. And to experience the having a career as an actor without a graduate degree, because that's what that time afforded me. I was able to find my own work, book my own jobs without an agent, without a Yale School of Drama, nothing, right? It gave me a considerable, and become equity, which is something that you get. They give you an equity card when you graduate grad school. I went into grad school with the card, right? But if not for that failure, I would not have had any of those experiences, and I would not have therefore had that level of confidence and clarity going into that graduate experience to be able to maximize the 3 years in the way that I was able to. So I learned a great deal in that pocket of time. And not only that, but I was able to get so much work done in that pocket of time because I had dared to put myself out there so early. And audition for grad school in a way that I had like 5 monologues at my disposal, ready to go. So after the grad school, it was just like going into the workforce, I was ready. I was like, come on, who wants to give me an audition kind of thing? So that was a big one. And, I think there will be more, I'm sure, that help me understand things. But I think that was probably one of the biggest ones. Yeah, in terms of learning how to trust the process. And again, I was at a place prior to booking City on the Hill where I was really frustrated. And again, that was another level where God was like, you have to surrender. Like, you are not in control.
It is so beautiful when you do.
Yeah, and it's everything when you do.
So much freedom.
Yeah. And I, you learn so much from that, because sometimes rejection is protection. And then you also learn, I think if you, even with life outside of theater or acting or whatever, but if you try to control everything, you really do limit some of the beautiful
100%
nuggets that life can give you.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And so all right. Yeah. Okay. So you've often said you're seeking longevity in your career. And with longevity comes a legacy. So what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? And what kind of impact do you want your work to have on the world, when it's all said and done?
It's an awesome question. It really is. I don't think for me, nothing is more powerful than the truth. And I think the truth is God.
Mm.
And I think I look for truth. My main job as an actor is to look for the truth
Mm-hmm.
of the character, of the experience through my body as I know it, and offer it as best I can.
Yeah.
I have to do research to do that. I have to call on other people's expertise to do that. I have to trust a divine understanding to do that. I have to do that level. And I think if I do that, then I allow other people to see the divine in a very particular kind of way through that work. And I also think that it's this work as an actor, but storytelling, I believe in it so deeply because I think it is both a tool for education and a tool for liberation.
Mm.
And those are two things I think education is, and so liberating our bodies, minds, and spirit in honor of the truth is what I do as an actor and the kind of work that I wish to offer to the world via my legacy.
Thank you. That is all we have.
Okay.
This was amazing.
Thank you.
And I appreciate all the thoughtful responses.
Absolutely. Thank you for the thoughtful questions.
Of
I've literally one of my most cherished interviews yet. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it's great having Lauren E. Banks right here on Audible Network.
Audible Network.
So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. This was dope.
So dope.
I appreciate you for coming.